Did you bring me that? Thank you. Thank you. You want to tell your friends we're talking about age-related training mistakes? Tell your friends how old you are. Oh, is that rude? Is that rude? Well, you're an old man. You're 7. Okay, well. Why, hello there, endurance nerds. If you've ever woken up sore, confused, and mildly betrayed by a sport you willingly chose, welcome to the party. Who among us hasn't sat at the edge of our beds in cycling shorts, staring into the abyss like a war veteran, reminiscing about last week's over-unders? Okay, that's probably just me. But today we're talking through the most common training mistakes by age group, because while the human body is immensely complicated, our bad habits are hilariously predictable. Every decade comes with its own brand of athletic delusion. In your 20s, you're invincible. In your 30s, you're in denial. In your 40s, you're surprised. In your 50s, you're nostalgic. And by your 60s, you're just sick and goddamn tired of everyone else's advice. We're going to go through each season of life, not just to roast everyone equally, though yes, that will be happening, but to show you how your training needs to evolve as your body, your life, and your Tour de France wildcard delusions all shift over time. And hey, even if you're tempted to skip to your own age group, I'd recommend sticking around. You might learn what's coming, laugh at what you've already survived, or realize that you've been making the wrong decade's mistake this whole time. Think of it as an endurance athlete time travel event with better snacks and less chafing. So let's kick things off with the age group most likely to think they're invincible because they recovered from leg day in one nap. In your 20s, you have more energy than wisdom, more recovery capacity than restraint, and just enough knowledge to be dangerous. And that's not an insult. It's a metabolic superpower that will be ripped away from you the moment that you turn 30 and discover back pain from sleeping wrong. The most common mistake in this decade is overtraining without any meaningful structure. You're doing threshold sessions back to back, lifting heavy in the gym without a deload plan, and signing up for every fondo, marathon, crit, or charity ride within a 200-mile radius, all while sleeping 5 hours and eating like a raccoon that got into a vending machine. Why? Because in your 20s, life load is low and ego load is high. You don't yet have the perspective that consistency over years matters way more than this week's TSS. If that sounded condescending, good. You're young. You'll recover. But in this decade, fatigue doesn't feel like danger. It feels like growth. You confuse tolerance with adaptation. You assume that just because you're not in a hospital, you're improving. But fatigue without periodization doesn't build performance. It just builds a need for caffeine and an eventual sports therapist. What your body actually needs at this stage is smart progression. Volume is your friend, and yes, you should be doing a lot, but only if it's structured. High volume without variation, recovery, and intensity control becomes noise. And by the time you realize that you're burnt out, you're 6 months deep into a performance plateau that no amount of beet juice is going to fix. Fix it by getting ahead of the curve. Learn how to build a mesocycle. Plan your intensity. Introduce periodized training early. Respect rest. Not just because you're tired, but because it's where adaptation actually happens. If you treat your 20s like a sandbox for smart training habits instead of a testosterone-soaked death march, you might build a foundation that you can cash in on for decades. Welcome to your 30s, where your ambitions are still 25 years old, but your body is definitely not. This is the era of denial training. You're still chasing KOMs, skipping warm-ups, and wondering why your max heart rate has taken early retirement. The problem isn't that you're suddenly broken, it's that you're pretending nothing changed while everything has. The thing is, you're juggling work, family, sleep deprivation, and a slowly dawning realization that your best recovery window is never. Your life load now competes with your training load. You've got career pressure, family chaos, probably a sleep deficit you can refinance, and you're still trying to stack TSS like you live in a training camp. This is where overreaching becomes chronic. Not because your body can't handle it, but because your recovery is now throttled by cortisol, stress, poor sleep, and the existential dread of school lunches. You're training hard because you're clinging to your old numbers, not because it's the best way to get faster now. Physiologically, this is when your hormonal profile starts to change. Your anabolic hormones like testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1, they all begin to slide. Your nervous system doesn't bounce back from intensity as quickly, and your resilience to poorly timed volume, it's lower than ever. So how do you fix it? Shift your focus from more to smarter. Every training session now has a cost, and the returns have to justify it. Build your weeks around key sessions, not just the total hours. Use wearable data if it helps you to surface red flags early. If you're exhausted on a Tuesday and your kid just coughed in your mouth, maybe you skip the 2020s that day. Consistency will beat those hero workouts every single time. You can still train hard in your 30s, but if you're doing it by pretending your life hasn't changed, you're not training, you're just being stubborn and technical fabric. And then comes the 40s. Peak wisdom, decent fitness, and just enough wear and tear to make you hesitate before box jumps. You know what you're doing, mostly, but the mistake here is clinging to your aerobic roots while ignoring the creeping decline in power, strength, and top-end capacity. Most endurance athletes in this bracket are quietly losing the ability to go hard, not because they're lazy, but because they're too comfortable. You're still doing your sweet spot rides, your long weekend tempo efforts, and that's fine. It's better than nothing, but your body is evolving, and you're not keeping up. By your 40s, sarcopenia has already started, and you're not lifting because you're a proper endurance athlete. Your VO2 max is declining unless you actively push it. Your fast twitch fibers are retiring faster than middle managers in a merger. And your bone density, well, it's not waiting around to see if you feel like squatting this year. What's the fix? Strength training isn't a suggestion. It's your lifeline. And not just functional strength with a 12-pound kettlebell while standing on a Bosu ball. You need to lift heavy, squats, deadlifts, presses with real load, real rest, and real progression. You also need to reintroduce high-intensity work. Not endlessly, not recklessly, but with intention. Those short VO2 max blocks you used to skip, they're now the difference between holding on and fading out. You still need volume, especially aerobic volume, but it has to be paired with enough strain to push your thresholds north instead of quietly letting them slide. This decade isn't about surviving, it's about adapting aggressively. Train like you're trying to reverse the clock, not just slow it down. Now, in your 50s, if you're still training, first of all, you've already beaten the average. Most of your peers gave up on their cardio years ago and now consider mowing the lawn a HIIT session. But just showing up isn't enough anymore. The big mistake here is settling into maintenance mode. You've got your favorite loops, your trusty pace, and your body's still holding up okay, so you stop pushing. You prioritize long, steady efforts because they feel productive and manageable. You avoid intensity because it feels risky, uncomfortable, or like something for younger athletes. But here's the thing. Long, slow rides maintain your aerobic base, but they don't improve your peak capacity. And as aging accelerates, the physiological cost of not maintaining your upper end systems becomes significant. You're not just losing power, you're losing metabolic flexibility, neuromuscular sharpness, and speed of recovery. To make matters worse, many athletes in this age group still haven't embraced strength training, or they've done it inconsistently, chasing variety instead of progression. That's like flossing one tooth. It's not hurting, but it's not helping either. The fix? First, stop coasting. Add short intensity back into your week. Sprints, 3-minute intervals, hill repeats. You don't need a lot, but you need enough to signal to your body that high performance still matters. Second, get on a proper strength program. Heavy, progressive, repeatable. Third, don't ditch volume. Just make sure the volume you're doing has a point. Every session should have a purpose beyond, it was nice out. You're not preserving fitness. You're choosing whether you want to be a fast 50-year-old or just a slow, vaguely proud one. Don't retire into softness. You're not done yet. Welcome to your golden years, where you've probably forgotten more about training than most people ever learn. And yet, the most common mistake now is undertraining. Not because you don't care, but because too many voices, coaches, peers, even doctors are telling you to dial it back, stay safe, and just be glad you can still be riding or running without assistance. Respectfully, fuck that.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Yes, recovery takes longer. Yes, your risk of injury is higher. Yes, your hormonal profile has shifted, but you still adapt to stimulus. And when you trade real training for easy spinning and golf, your body will follow suit, straight into decline. The most overlooked truth, the older you are, the more you have to fight to hold on to what you've got. Muscle mass, cardiovascular fitness, neuromuscular coordination, they're all under siege, and they don't care how many decades you've been staying active. So, what's the plan? Train for function. Prioritize strength training that focuses on joint integrity, power, and movement quality. Hit intensity at least once a week. Short, sharp intervals that push your VO2 max without wrecking the system. Keep volume. Yes, keep it. Because without it, you lose endurance, blood flow, and recovery capacity. You don't need 20-hour weeks, but you do need consistent, challenging aerobic work. Don't just stay fit. Stay fierce, stay fast, stay dangerous to anyone in your age group that stopped trying. The goal here is not to chase PRs, it's to chase preservation of function, of independence, of power, and of pride. You are not done, and you are not fragile, just overdue for some better programming. Every decade brings a new constraint, but they also bring a new opportunity to adapt, evolve, and train smarter. In your 20s, you need to learn restraint. In your 30s, you need to train with intent. In your 40s, you need to fight decay. In your 50s, you need to challenge comfort. And beyond your 60s, you need to stay in the game and play to win. The problem isn't your age, it's pretending your age doesn't matter. So don't. Train like someone who knows exactly where they're at and still chooses to be better. And I see you about to comment, I'm different. I promise, that's also just your age talking. If any of this hits you in the ego, good. Drop your decade down in the comments and tell me what your training trap used to be or still is. And if you're still out there doing the same plan from 2012, maybe it's time to unsubscribe from your own habits, not from this exceptionally delightful channel. Speaking of which, the buttons, they're down there. They're calling your name. Click them, please. I'm pathetic. But thank you all so much for watching. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.